My husband divorced me thinking I would fall apart. He found out why they called me the Queen Bee. My husband Gabe and I met in our mid-20s through a mutual friend, dated for 2 years, got married, and for the first 5 years things were good. I was an event planner, and he was in commercial real estate. He knew I was popular in high school, student council president, prom committee, volleyball captain. I organized everything, and people followed my lead. He called me the Queen Bee as a joke, and I laughed. But over time, the joke changed. When I planned dinners or handled something he forgot, he would say, "There she goes again," and roll his eyes. If I took charge, he told people my wife has to run everything. If I corrected him, he would say, "Watch out, the Queen Bee is stinging." He used it to shrink me, like the thing that made me good at my job and good at keeping our life together was something to be embarrassed about. By year 6, he was pulling away, stopped asking about my work, started going out without me, and when I asked where he had been, he said I did not need to manage his schedule. He had been seeing someone from his office, a woman named Bridget, whom he described to a friend as easygoing and low maintenance. She was simple, and I was too much. He filed for divorce, sat me down and said he did not want this anymore, said I was controlling and intense, and he needed someone who let him breathe, said living with me was like being managed, and he was done being one of my projects. He said that to a woman who spent 6 years making sure every part of his life ran smoothly. I did not cry in front of him. I said okay, and asked him to leave. The first month was hard. I will not pretend it was not. But I am the person I have always been. I plan, I organize, I execute. That did not stop because my husband left. It kicked in harder. I called a lawyer and had the paperwork reviewed in a week. I found an apartment and signed the lease before the house even went on the market. I split our finances cleanly because I had kept track of everything since year 1. He was surprised at how fast it all moved. He told our mutual friend that he thought I would fight him on it or fall apart, and instead, I treated the divorce like a project and had it done in 3 months. He said it like it was a bad thing, like my ability to function without him was proof that I never needed him, rather than proof that he underestimated me. Within 6 months, I had my own place, a promotion at work, and a social life that did not revolve around managing his. My friends came back. Not that they had left, but they came back fully. The ones who had pulled away because Gabe made every gathering about himself started showing up again. Dinners at my place on Fridays, trips planned months out, group chats that were active every day. I did what I have always done. I brought people together, and I made sure everyone was taken care of, and they loved me for it the same way people did in high school. Not because I was bossy, because I was the one who remembered birthdays and checked in when someone went quiet and made things happen when nobody else would. That is what being the Queen Bee actually meant. Gabe never understood that. He saw the control, but he never saw the care underneath it. Meanwhile, Gabe's life started shrinking. The friends we shared as a couple started choosing me, not because I asked them to, but because I was the one who had always held the group together. And without me doing that for him, he had no infrastructure. He stopped getting invited to things because he was never the one who organized them. I was. His relationship with Bridget lasted about 4 months. I heard from a friend that she ended it because he was distant and dismissive, and she told someone he made her feel like she was not enough. Same pattern, different woman, he just needed someone new to feel superior to. Our mutual friend told me Gabe ran into a guy from my high school at a work event about a year after the divorce. The guy did not know Gabe was my ex. He just mentioned my name and said I was the one person from school who kept everyone connected. He said I organized every reunion, kept the group chat going, and checked on people when things got hard. He said everyone always said the same thing about me, which was that I was the reason the friend group still existed 20 years later. Gabe apparently went quiet. He asked the guy what people called me in school. The guy said they called her the Queen Bee, but not like the mean girl kind, the kind that actually held the hive together. Gabe did not say anything after that. Our mutual friend told me Gabe brought it up later that week. Cooper called me 3 days later saying Gabe had reached out to him after what Nick said at that work event, that Gabe kept coming back to the Queen Bee thing and it seemed to be eating at him, and I realized I was curious not in the raw way I would have been 6 months ago, but because I wanted to know what he was thinking now that someone showed him a version of me he never bothered to see. Cooper told me Gabe spent an hour talking in circles about our marriage, kept returning to the moment Nick described how I held the high school group together for 20 years, sounded genuinely shaken like he was realizing he misunderstood something fundamental about who I was, kept using the word controlling, then stopping himself, then trying to explain why it felt wrong now. Part of me wanted Gabe to feel the full weight of his mistake, but another part recognized his belated realization changed nothing because I had moved on and rebuilt, and his understanding came too late to matter. Friday came and my dinner group showed up at my apartment the way they did every week, with Morgan bringing wine and Zara making her famous pasta salad, and Morgan noticed I was quieter than usual and pulled me into the kitchen where I told her about Gabe's reaction. She got this fierce look reminding me why we had been friends since sophomore year, saying she was glad he finally understood, but angry it took a stranger's perspective for him to see what was right in front of him for 6 years, that I spent our entire marriage trying to make him understand my organizational skills came from caring about people, not controlling them, and he only got it now when understanding could not undo the damage. I threw myself into work planning a major corporate event for a tech company's 10th anniversary, requiring multiple venues and 300 guests, working late every night building detailed spreadsheets and confirming vendors, and Zara gently suggested over lunch that maybe I was using work to avoid processing my feelings, and I admitted she might be right, but creating something successful felt better than dwelling on my ex-husband's regrets. The event went perfectly, and my boss pulled me aside to say she was recommending me for senior event director with a significant raise and my own team, and I felt genuinely proud in a way I could not during my marriage when Gabe made every success feel like evidence of my controlling nature. Morgan organized a celebration dinner at the nice Italian place, and I arrived to find 8 people with champagne already open. and the energy felt different from my marriage because nobody rolled their eyes or joked about me being bossy. They were genuinely celebrating my talents being recognized. Nick showed up and I thanked him for what he told Gabe, and he shifted uncomfortably, explaining he hadn't known Gabe was my ex when he praised me, and I said I was glad because Gabe needed an objective assessment from someone with no stake in our divorce. 2 weeks later, Cooper called saying Gabe asked how to get invited to group events, and Cooper had to explain the invitations came through me and always had, that I maintained the shared calendar and sent reminders and made sure everyone felt included, and Gabe seemed genuinely surprised the social infrastructure he took for granted required actual work. I laughed because of course he never noticed the invisible work I did to keep our friend group connected, just like he never noticed the invisible work keeping our life running. I started organizing our high school 20-year reunion, coordinating with over 200 former classmates, and people kept thanking me for tracking them down, with one woman emailing that she almost skipped because she felt like she didn't belong, but remembered I always made everyone feel included, so she decided to come. Morgan asked if I planned to invite Gabe, and I genuinely did not care either way, telling her to add him because his presence would not affect my ability to enjoy the night, and she looked surprised by my indifference, but I explained I had moved past needing his validation because I was surrounded by people who always saw me clearly. The reunion happened at a downtown hotel ballroom, and Gabe arrived 30 minutes in, alone and looking uncomfortable in a way that made me realize how much he relied on me to navigate social situations, standing near the entrance, scanning the room like he was searching for someone to talk to. I was polite when we crossed paths near the registration table, but genuinely more interested in catching up with former classmates I had not seen in years, and I watched him struggle to connect with people without me there to facilitate introductions and keep conversations flowing. Cooper pulled me aside to say Gabe asked why everyone seemed closer to me, and Cooper explained that relationships require maintenance, that someone has to remember birthdays and organize gatherings, and Gabe thought these things just happened on their own, not understanding I had been doing that work for decades. And Cooper said Gabe finally grasped that Queen Bee was about care, not control. After the reunion, I sat alone in my apartment and allowed myself to feel sad about the waste of 6 years where he could have appreciated my strengths instead of resenting them. All that time I spent trying to make him see that being organized came from caring about people. All those moments he rolled his eyes or made jokes at my expense instead of recognizing what I brought to our relationship, and I sat with that sadness for about an hour, then moved forward because dwelling on his regrets would not change my life. My promotion became official, and I was assigned 3 junior planners, and training them reminded me leadership is about empowering people to succeed, not controlling them, and one told me she appreciated my clear communication and said I struck the perfect balance. 6 weeks after the reunion, I ran into Gabe at a coffee shop, and he apologized for not understanding what Queen Bee meant, and for making me feel like my nature was something to apologize for. I accepted his apology because it seemed genuine, but made clear his understanding came too late to repair what he damaged. He asked if we could be friends, and I explained that friendship requires the consistent effort and care he never valued when we were married, and I was not interested in maintaining a relationship with someone who spent 6 years diminishing me, and he looked hurt but accepted my boundary. I walked away feeling like I had finally closed that chapter completely, no more wondering if he would ever understand, just a clean ending and freedom to move forward. 3 months later, I landed the biggest project of my career, a charity gala for local schools with 500 guests expected, and a fundraising goal that made my boss nervous when she approved it, and my team executed it perfectly, raising twice our goal because I personally called every major donor to explain how their contribution would directly benefit classroom supplies and teacher resources. Morgan found me during the after party and gave a toast calling me the Queen Bee who holds everyone together, and this time it was said with pure love and zero sarcasm, and I looked around at my team celebrating and friends who showed up and realized Gabe's belated understanding meant nothing because I had surrounded myself with people who always knew my worth, and I finally believed it myself.